kampuni zako ama katika thank you. Ama katika organization yako. And some of the things yenye tutakuwa tukiangalia ama malengo ya hii training, moja ni tuweze kuelewa utumizi bora wa fedha zetu katika organization zetu, that is understanding the importance of financial management. And also another thing is also on understanding the core principle of financial management. Hiyo ni mikakati muhimu katika utumizi bora wa fedha zetu, and also tuko na objectives. Hiyo ni malengo ya utumizi bora katika fedha zetu katika kampuni zetu. Na pia, sorry, I don't know why this keep on inarudi ki. And then also to learn how to achieve sound financial management. Tunaweza kutekelezaje utumizi bora wa matumizi ya pesa katika organization zetu, na pia tutajifunza importance of creating budget. Hiyo ni umuhimu wa kutengeneza bajeti katika organization zetu, na pia to understand the risk management strategy. Hiyo ni mikakati ya kupunguza tishio katika organization while handling our finances. Hiyo katika utumizi wa pesa katika ofisi. And then also tuko na learn bookkeeping and accounting. Bookkeeping and accounting hiyo ni uwekezaji bora wa vitabu zetu za hesabu. And then kuna tips of financial management. Hiyo sasa ni malengo ama ni kilele ya utumizi muhimu wa our financial management. So tukianza, tutaanza na tuelewe kwanza what is utumizi bora wa fedha zetu katika ofisini ama financial management. So tunaambiwa financial management is using financial resources optimally to achieve your business goals. So what do we mean by using our financial resources? So financial resources inaweza kuwa utumizi wa pesa vizuri katika organization zetu, na hii yote ina involve managing funds na also cash flow. Ni vile kila siku kwa kampuni zetu huwa tunatumia haje pesa ambayo tumeipata. Maybe tukipata pesa kama leo tumeuza bidhaa ama tumepata like a guest, sababu najua hapa tuko na different kind of products and services yenye our members wetu wanatumia. Sasa kama ni product ama ni service umetumia kwa umeuza, ni mikakati gani inafaa tuweke, which are kind of principles that you're supposed to put in place in order for us to be able to achieve the financial aspect, so that the business can be able to thrive, and also we can have transparency. Transparency ni uwazi ambao tunaweza kutumia katika fedha zetu. Sasa tunaweza kusema pia ina involve the planning. So financial management also ina involve planning, na kuplan ni kwanza kuweka mahitaji yetu. Tunaambia kama leo hii ni mahitaji ambayo tunataka kutumia. Tunaweza ifanyaje ndio tuweze ku realize our objective, tuweze kujua tumeweza kufikisha objectives zetu katika biashara. So tunawaza kukuwa na budget zenye tumetengeneza, ama tunaweza kukuwa na mikakati ambayo tumeweka, ndiposa tuweze kumonitor ama tuweze kufikisha hizo zenye mabiashara yenye tunataka kufanya, ama ni pesa yenye tumepata katika kampuni. Na ni important kabisa kwa hii financial management ndio tuweze to manage our resources very well. Ni muhimu kuwa tunaweka vitabu zetu vizuri. Ni muhimu kuwa kila siku lazima tuweke rekodi. Unapouza bidhaa ama chochote ambacho unazouza, lazima uweke rekodi yako. Kujua leo nimeuza hii na leo nimetumia hii. Sasa hiyo ndio important of financial management, na that's how financial management is. So maybe before niende kwa importance of hiyo ama core principle of financial management, ningependa tu niulize watu wawili watatu ndio ndiposa tuweze kuelewa. Hata tukiwapeleka hii ama when I'm taking you through this process, it's important for you now to understand what are the good practice that you're supposed to put in your organization and what are not good practice. So ningependa tu watu wawili, especially yule mwenye aliniambia kuna interest in this area, aniambie kwa organization yao wanapouza bidhaa ama wanapo receive ama kama ni project, ni malengo gani ambayo wameweka, ama which are strategies, ama which are the core things that they do the moment they sell the product. What do they do with the money? So ningependa tu watu wa share experience zao vile wana manage money on a daily basis in their organization. Sasa ndio tujue what you're supposed to do, and going forward, what you're supposed to do, ama what you're doing currently and what you're supposed to do going forward. So ningependa tu watu wawili watupatie experience zao, vile hao hutumia pesa katika biashara zao, ndio tuposa tuweze kuelewa vizuri vile tunafaa kuhandle ama financial management in our organization. So ningependa tu watu wawili ama watatu waweze ku, so that they can share their experience on how they manage their finances within the organization. Thank you. So you can unmute yourself and then you say something. Kama uko na accountant, unaweza ukasema organization yetu we have an accountant but hii ndio tunafanya. Na pia kama accountant ni mhasibu, na pia kama hauna mhasibu kwa organization, pia unaweza ukatuelezea hii ndio mikakati ambayo tunafanya tunapouza bidhaa ama tunapoagizia kitu, kama maybe unaenda mahali ku a training. For example, kama ingekuwa in training in Nairobi, ungekuwa mmeka mikakati gani yenye ya kuagizia pesa, ndio sasa pesa itoke kwa bank ama ni kwa M-Pesa ama whatever penye inatoka, ndio sasa wakupatia waweze kukufacilitate katika hii training. So ningependa mshare experience and then we can continue. Asante. So anyone, you can just unmute yourself and then you share your experience on how your organization.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Like I said, this is my area of interest, and for me, my experience with, I think I've been having issues with managing finance by organization. This has been a challenge, and that's why I really wanted to be part of this today. So, but for the little we've done, most of the time when we do a sale, when we have a sale, we make sure we keep up the records well. The receipts are well kept, and also the bank. We also most of the time bank. We avoid the M-Pesa, blah blah, so that in case of maybe there's a statement that is being needed in terms of bank, it's easy to follow up as compared to M-Pesa. And also another challenge maybe that we have is that you don't have like a specific number for the business. So we are still using my number, that is registered under. So for now, I think that is another way. That's why we are using bank to avoid the use of M-Pesa. Someone may want to say my name. That is like can ask himself so many questions. See? So that's why most of the time we prefer using the, so that when someone wants to verify the authenticity of maybe organization, it's easy to see that. But for me, I think I'm really having problems with financial management, and I'm really looking for more. Thank you so much.
Okay, now in terms of approval, huwa mnafanya haje? Maybe you are going for a project somewhere, ama there's a training out of maybe, you don't know which region you are coming from, but maybe you are coming to Nairobi. Yeah, in terms of reimbursements and procedures, do you have any procedures in place?
Yes, we normally have we have two signatories for that. For me, founder, normally for I cannot withdraw money without her consent, and do the same without my consent. So we have to do that. We all have to approve that the cash can be maybe made readily available.
Okay, now in terms of selling a product, how long does it take before at the point of selling until when you are now depositing the money to the bank? Because you said you don't use M-Pesa, right? It's only from cash to bank.
Yes. So yes, in that case, we normally what we normally do before even deliver the product, we ask the consumer which method of payment maybe we will use, so that we get to know that better. So it doesn't bring so many challenges at the end after the product has been delivered. The person might say, I mean, I can only pay through M-Pesa, and we are saying M-Pesa, it's a bit tricky, and that will already be delivered. So the things that we normally ensure that we get them fast in hand before delivering the final product. Yes.
Okay. sawa sawa. So thank you very much. I believe by the end of the session, you can be able now to get the answers that you need in terms of now financial management. And I've also understand your concern, and it's something that I'll tackle as we move on. And then also maybe at the end of the session, we can also be able now to ask more further questions. So I just wanted a case study so that going forward, I can be able now to refer. And then I can see Cbte, you are saying I usually prioritize following the preference during spending of any finances. And then we have Joanna Menge, I believe from Garendare. For us, all expenses must be tracked with receipts. Also, there is resource allocation for different departments, depending on the needs. And also for money to be cashed, we have signatories. For these signatories are very important in sound financial management. And then we have Eric Lengis, and the program coordinator, Samburu, joining from Marara. So we'll continue with our today a training that is on the financial management. And thank you so much for sharing your experience. I don't know if there's anyone else who will need to share before now we can go ahead and continue with the presentation, or is something that I can present, then we can ask questions at the end of the session. It's also important to share your experience so that we know how I can be able to tackle this. I can see there is Eric is saying B2C, and also M-Pesa enhances transparency in organization. That one is very true for the M-Pesa, because nowadays there's the use of now what we call, we can use the Lipa na M-Pesa, and also there is from bank to, from M-Pesa to bank, which might make it very easy. So we'll go to principles of financial management. So principle of financial management, number one is consistency. So in our transaction, we must be handled in consistent manner. So every day we need to have consistency in whatever we are doing. And that one also needs to be in line with the policies and also the procedures. Because about whatever you mentioned, sijui kama kuna wale wenye wako na policies in the organization, and also na the set procedures that are supposed to be followed. In terms of maybe kama kuna petty cash management, how are you supposed to handle that petty cash management? So we need that consistency, that if today there is petty cash, maybe you are going somewhere for a training, you're supposed to be given this amount. Then by the time you're coming from the training, this is how much I've spent. So you're supposed, how much you spent is supposed to be backed up by the receipt, just like the way Joy has said, that all our expenses have been backed up by the receipt, and also some of you, that's what you've shared. So that is very important, so that we can be able to establish and also address similar types of transaction, which is very important, and also we can make it as a routine. And then something else is timeliness. Transaction must be handled within a reasonable period of time, and that's why I was asking, at what time, by the time you are receiving the money, at what point do you deposit it at the bank? But sometimes it's very important for us to have timeliness in all the transactions that we are handling, not to avoid risking the money or even loss of the money. So it's very important that transaction must be handled with reasonable period of time, consistent with now the policies and procedures that we have in place. So policies and procedures, that's something that you can also be able to tackle it later, because it's important as an organization to kuwa na policies na procedures, something that inatu guide, yenye inatuelekeza katika organization zetu, vile tunaweza kuhandle pesa katika organization. And then pia tuko na justification. There must be a reasonable for transactions that support the program goals and adhere to guidelines and the guidelines that already been outlined. So in case maybe umepatiwa expenses, and it happens, maybe you've planned very well your budget, and that's why also I'll take you in, as we go on, I'll take you through how you can be able now to come up with a sound budget. Because sometimes you may write a budget, maybe umesema from here to point B, I may use maybe 20 shillings. But now after you've already handed over the budget, maybe the finance person ameandika, amekupatia, this is the money that you requested. And then by the end of the trip, wanapata, okay, kumbe I put 20, but now the fare due to inflation rate and all that, it's 50. So what are you supposed to do in such a situation? So there's something that we call justification. In case there is anything, that's how even the policy should allow, and also most of the projects allow. You should give a justification. Lazima uambie ni justification ile unajieleza. Useme, okay, ulinipatia shilingi 20, lakini katika shilingi 20 nimeenda nimetumia shilingi 50. Na the reason why nimeenda kutumia shilingi 50, it's because hii na hii ilifanya nini, tulipata kama imeongezeka. Alafu also documentation is very important. We need to have sufficient documentation to support the transaction. Kwa sababu a lot of challenges, na nimeona hiyo ni Cbte. I've dealt with Cbte before, is mambo ya projects and also projects inaleta shida kabisa. So some of the things zenye inafaa tufanye, inafaa tuweke documents vizuri na the proper documentation. Kama ni receipts, you have to angalia vizuri, uangalie hii receipt is valid. Kwa sababu kuna wenye wanaleta receipt, but ukiangalia unaona this thing si kitu yenye unaweza, even the auditors wakikuja ama maybe KRA wakuja wafanye kitu, italeta shida. So documentation is very important, sufficient documentation. Make sure kama ni kitu umepatiwa, kama ni I've given you 14,000, make sure you fully account for that 14,000 na umeniletea receipt ambazo zinatosha. So those are core principles of financial management. Alafu also certification. Transaction must be approved and carry all the correct authorization signatures. And it's important nimefurahia vile mnasema we have signatories. Even if we have signatories in place, it's important for us to have even 3 or 4 signatories. Sometimes having 2 signatories, it's not safe. Kwa sababu anything can happen. And also organization, unaweza ukapata maybe unasema these 2 ndio wamekuwa authorized kulipa. Maybe something happens kwa sababu hii maisha we can't know. Maybe amefall sick. Sasa organization unaitakuwa ngumu kwa wewe kuanza kumanage finances, yet itakuwa imestall. Vitu mingi zimesimama za organization yenye watu hawezi wakafanya. Reason being hakuna signatories. So sometimes certification is very important. We need to have signatures on board, na also those signatures, na I believe tuko na board, executive board, finance committee, they are very important also kwa sisi kama CBTOs, kukuwa na finance committee na pia kukuwa na board. Ndio ndiposa wakati umekuja umecome up na budget, ni vizuri wana certify. That's what we call certification. So wana certify, wanasema okay, hii ndio budget tumefanya, hii ndio budget tutakuwa tunatumia katika hii mwaka. Na in case kuna any overspending, tumeongea hapo about justification. It's very important for us to justify. Na justification ni kuambia kitu ambayo inaeleweka. Si ku justify tu just because of justification. Ni vizuri unapatiana maelezo ambayo yanakubaliana na trip yenye umeenda. So certification is very important, na signatures kwa wale organization wenye hawana. So by the end of the hii maybe nitaulizia tena tujue ni wangapi wenye wako na authorization ya kukuwa na signatories. Signatories ni watu ambao wamepatiwa kibali ya kuweza kusign na kuweza kutoa pesa kwa account ya organization, bank account. And it's also important, I believe all of us we have bank account, na hiyo bank account ya organization, not our personal bank account, because it's very important for us to put money for organization kando na pesa yetu ya matumizi, personal needs kando. So certification is very important in each and everything. Lazima members, kwa sababu na believe CBTO na CBTO zinakuanga group, it can be a community, lazima mweke members wakwe wanaelewa whatever is happening. And also has a signatory, ni muhimu hata ni kama ni finance manager ama ni treasurer, kwa sababu unaweza ukapata kuna CBTOs wengi wenye nimeona hawana finance but wamechagua kuna treasurer mwenye ana authorize vitu. So it's important hata signatories, maybe the chairman na secretary ama any other member of the board. Ni important unapopatiwa maybe budget ya kusign, maybe mtu anaenda project somewhere out of Nairobi ama out of the country, ni important for you to certify. Unaangalia hizi documents, unasema are this okay, is this budget okay, is this kama amesema cost of maybe trip ni 20,000, is it 20,000, it's going to something yenye ameka out of whatever inafanya. Sababu tumeona a lot of signatories. You remember kulikuwa na wakati shida with one of the counties here in Kenya, ile yenye ilikuwa ni wheelbarrow. Unapata wheelbarrow ina cost 169,000, of which in real sense hata kama ni wheelbarrow iwezi kakosa. So if sometimes it's good even as a signatory, unapopatiwa any budget ya kusign for any project ama any program yenye unafanya ama any training unaenda, ni vizuri kukuwa na that due diligence. Unaangalia, you confirm kwanza the cost ya kila kitu, especially sasa unaletewa receipt. Ni vizuri uangalie hizo receipt, ama kama kuna kitu organization imenunuliwa, maybe it's an asset, lazima uangalie hii kitu kweli inaweza kuwa hii price, so that tuweze kukuwa na good management of our finances. So those are with regards to the core principle. So next tutamove kwa the objectives, kwa sababu ni vyema sana kwa sisi kuelewa which are some of the objectives, ni malengo ya utumizi bora wa pesa. So tunaambiwa financial management is generally concerned with the procurement, allocation and control of financial resources. So hiyo tushaona huko nyuma, just control of financial resources. So one of the objectives, tuko na 6 objectives hapa. So financial management inatusaidia kudetermine our financial status. Kwa sababu the moment tuna manage our finances well, na hiyo tumesema ni record keeping, tukue na signatory in place when you wanna confirm hiyo pesa before the money can be withdrawn from the bank. Hizo ni vitu muhimu, na pia tukue na cash flow every day. Financial management is important, bookkeeping. Kila siku tukue na mambo ambayo tunaweka. Kama ni biashara umeuza, lazima uweke records. Unasema leo nimeuza hii bidhaa, ama kama ni booking, sababu naelewa kama ngarendare hapo uko na mambo na booking safaris and all that. Lazima you put it into records so that by the end of the day unaweza kuona hii ndio nimepata na hii ndio nimefanya nini, hii ndio matumizi nimetumia. So inatusaidia kudetermine our current financial data. Sisi kuelewa hii ndio income nimereceive, mapato ambayo nimepata, na hii ndio expenses ama matumizi ambayo nimetumia katika hiyo mwezi, na hii ndio bakishi ama the profits or losses. So profits or losses zenye zimebaki ni hii. So it's very important for us to inatusaidia kudetermine our current financial status. Ingine ni determine our capital requirements. Kwa sababu kwa biashara, maybe you are a startup, hauna pesa ya kutosha. So sometimes inaweza kukuelezea kama ni pesa unahitaji ya kuongezea kwa hii biashara, ndiposa wewe uweze kufanya nini, uweze kutekeleza mahitaji yako ya mwezi for the month. So determining capital requirement is also very important. And that's why tulisema it's very important for us also to have bank accounts. Pia M-Pesa are very important for today's business. For you now to be able to sell and to ufikisha your maximum sale, also we need to have M-Pesas in place, which is very important. So determining your capital requirements is also important so that you can be able to understand the needs of your business. So that is also objective of financial management. Kuna framing financial policies. Tumesema policies, mikakati ambayo tumeweka katika organization zetu, the control measures ambayo tumeweka katika organization zetu. Kwa sababu watu wengi sana tuna kama kuna budget, tunafanya hivi, but tuko na hizo policies zenye zina guide hizo financial policies zenye zina to guide ku maybe kama unataka ku request for petty cash, lazima kuwe na certain limit yenye vikwazo ambazo zimewekwa, yenye uwezo ukafikisha. Kama ni kwa mwezi, let's say tunasema ni 10,000, hiyo mwezi kwa hivyo 10,000. Hatuwezi tukienda over and above that. Alafu also kwa policy tunasema ni either 2 to sign or 3 to sign. Ndio sasa kama mmoja hayuko, ama tunasema we have 4 signatories in place. Ndio kama hawa wawili hawako, maybe to one reason or another, ama mtu ametravel out of the country, at least pia biashara inaweza ikiendelea, na kunaweza kuwa tena tunapata mtu ambaye anafanya nini, anaweza kusign. So those are financial policy yenye tunaweka, na pia control measures zinafaa kuwa under the finance policy. Tunaangalia which kind of things tunafaa kufanya. Kama maybe umeenda kwa field, how long inafaa ukitoka field uko umerudisha hizo pesa ambayo ulikuwa umepatiwa utumie na risiti, so that yenye mebaki inafaa wa bank waiweke kwa bank, na kama kuna any reimbursement inafaa wakufanyie wako umerudishiwa. So make sure your policy is very clear. So framing policies is very clear for each and every organization. So I believe a lot of organizations, especially community-based organizations, these are places where they fail, and hapo ndio unapata matumizi ya pesa inakuwa na shida kabisa. Sababu unapata watu hawana policies yenye mikakati ambayo wameweka ya kutusaidia kuweza kutumia pesa vizuri katika organization zetu. Alafu kitu mwingine muhimu, objective number nyingine ni risk management. So risk management hiyo nao ni mikakati ya kupunguza tishio. Ni mikakati gani ambayo tunafaa kuiweka ndio tuweze kupunguza hii tishio, risk katika organization zetu. Sababu a lot of organization, hata wakati unauza products zako online, kuna ile risk yenye unaweza kutumanisha product upate huyo client achukue alafu akose kufanya nini kukulipa. Ama saa zingine unapata risk nyingine inaweza kuwa katika organizations zetu, kwa wale wenye maybe wanabook safaris, upate ulipata client, maybe hakukupatia any deposit. Umebook client ama umeleta ama amecancel. Sasa amecancel na wewe ulikuwa umesema it's fully booked. So ni mikakati gani ambayo unafaa kuiweka ndio ndiposa wewe uavoid hizi risk ambazo zinaweza kukuja na biashara. Ama saa zingine umetumanisha, maybe mtu amekwambia kwa Mombasa, wewe uko Nairobi, umetumanisha bidhaa zako, imefika imepotea on goods transit. Ni mikakati gani na ambao uweke ndio reduce hizi kupoteza pesa katika vitu kama hivi. So pia hii nayo tutaweza kuongelea baadaye tunapoendelea na slides. So risk management is also one of the good aspects of financial management for organizations zako. Na before you come up with risk management, ni lazima you analyze, ni lazima uangalie within your organization. Ujiulize, kama mimi muuzaji wa hii bidhaa, ni risk gani, ni tishio gani ama hatari gani biashara yangu inaweza kuhusikana na hizo wakati ninapotekeleza as I'm trading, what kind of risk can I encounter? So it's very important for us also to understand ndio uweze kukuja up na policy na internal control measures enye unaweza ukaavoid hiyo. Alafu also determine your portfolio structure. Hiyo ni kama the more of the same. Inafaa uangalie your products and services, then uangalie how can you be able now to meet your financial objective. Alafu something else, maximization utilization of scarce resources. Kwa sababu in organization tunaweza kuwa na kitu yenye iko very scarce. How can you be able now to maximally utilize that resources? So those are 6 objectives of financial management, which are very, very important. Cash flow management is very important for our daily. We come up with the financial statement, cash flow status. We come up with capital requirements of the organization. And then sasa tuta move forward kwa financial management circle. So how can you, the circle itself. So number 1 is planning and budgeting. Planning and budgeting is very important. Kuplan na pia una budget, unajiambia ni mikakati gani nafaa kuiweka. So plan kwanza, ujiulize kama hii mwaka umesema maybe last year sales zako zilikuwa very low. Hii mwaka nitafanya nini ndio nianze kuongeza nini yangu inaitwaje sales zangu. So it's important for you now to plan. Unasema, hey, maybe, and I'm so happy. It was Angela and Cbte. I think they take you through the marketing aspect of it. Na kasema some of the things you can do maybe through the social media. So unafaa ujiulize, which kind of advertisement am I supposed na how much? So seme kama kwa income useme I need to increase my income by maybe 20%. Then out of this 20% ninafaa kufanya nini? So unafaa kuweka sasa, hiyo ni planning sasa unafanya. Nasema out of this nataka kufanya hivi, but maybe I need advertisement of this much. So unaandika kando. So by the time umemaliza kuplan, unasema nataka niweze kukuwa na advertisement ili ni boost inaitwaje products zangu. Unaona pia ukiweka kwa income, expenditure pia na unaweka marketing and publicity expenses. And sometimes it's very important for you to come up with very realistic budget. Now this is how challenge inakujia most of the time. Because most of the time people come up with budget, but they are not even realistic. Because ukiangalia, and I'm very happy my colleague Edwin yesterday aliwa check through how to come up with the realistic. So as management, we need to have realistic things zenye tunafaa kuwa nazo. So budgeting is very important. You need to analyze the organization. Ujue ni nini unahitaji kwa hii mwaka. Kama kuna kind of trainings inafaa undertake, ukuwe nayo. Kama kuna nini, usiwache kitu chochote nje. And that's why most of the time unapata watu wameleta budget but inakuwa na shida. Because mtu anaangalia anaona hii budget, it doesn't make sense. Even our donors wanaangalia wanasema it doesn't make sense. Alafu something also important for us now going forward, a lot of people wanna come up with a budget but hawaja analyze whatever, because it's very important even as you come up with a budget as an organization. Unaangalia mwaka jana, kama wewe umekuwa maybe for the last 5 years, unaangalia mwaka jana, how was my income, mapato yangu ilikuwaje na matumizi yangu pia ilikuwa aje. So it's very important for you to compare the two. Unaangalia hii, alafu ujue going forward, so ninafaa nifanye nini ama what I can be able to do ndio ni come up with a good budget yenye naweza kutekeleza mahitaji yangu yote yenye nahitaji kwa hii mwaka. Alafu sasa tunaenda kwa resource allocation. Once you come up with your budget, you plan how to do, and then you come up with the budget. Now budget ni ile pesa yenye unahitaji for you now to be able to realize your plans for the year. So sasa hapo ndio unaanza kufanya resource allocation. After budget, sasa si budget imekuonesha maybe training, this is how much, hivyo. So that's when now you start doing it. And then kuna operating, monitoring, and safeguarding. So it's very important even as we do the resource allocation and also the budgeting and planning. we also need, after we develop the budget, it's important for us to monitor and safeguard. Na monitoring ndio sasa ina come up in terms of now, hiyo sasa ni ina come up na mambo ya treasurer, chairman na secretary. Sana the treasurer na the chairman. You need to angalia. The moment you want to submit something for a month, it's important for us to have financial for the year, or for the month or for the quarter. So maybe kama umepoint period for the last over 5 years, it's important for you, maybe you can be doing it quarterly. Every quarter you analyze whatever budget umefanya, umesema okay fine, tulisema tunataka kukuwa na income ya 50,000 and then expenses maybe 30,000. Then by the end of the first quarter tumemake profit ya 30,000. But now hii ni first quarter, maybe uja meet your objectives. Ni nini inafaa tufanye kama organization? You go back to the drawing board. Now the budget, tunaangalia what are some of the expenses we can be able to cut down in order for us to realize ni vitu gani tunafanya. So hizo ni monitoring, operating, monitoring and safeguarding. Also we need to angalia, tumesema tulikuwa tumeka maybe for planning ama for training tulikuwa tumesema labda 10,000, but so far tumetumia 15,000. What can we be able to do now ndio going forward tuweze kufanya nini? Kutekeleza whatever tulikuwa tunataka na pia to maintain the profit. So it's important now, operating or evaluating also na monitoring is very important, and safeguarding, and then also evaluation and reporting. So after that inafaa we evaluate and report. Na tulisema explanation, justification is very important. Na ikuwe something that makes sense. Ile justification just for the sake of justification. It's important for evaluation and reporting, evaluate and report, so that by the time now you're doing evaluation and report, unaona hiyo arrow imerudi kwa planning and budgeting. So ndio unaangalia, are we supposed to cut down on some costs? Ama how can we be able to do to increase on our income in order for us tuweze kupata mapato muhimu katika, ama tusiweze ku go at a loss. Sijui kama at this point kuna mtu ako na question before now I can move on to planning and budgeting process. Kama kuna any question you can ask before ni endelee na the training. Do you have any question? Nani yako na question? You can also put it on the chat if you have a question. So also for now, this is the process for planning and budgeting process. So it's very important for us now to define the budget objectives. So most of the time tuna come up with the budget, but we have not even defined what our objectives are. So mikakati yetu ni nini? What are some of the objectives tunataka ku realize? Maybe tunataka kuongeza our sales for this particular period. Maybe this time, maybe we've not been having training, but tunataka ku train staff. So those are some of the things that we need to define. Then after that, we need to access our historical and actual data. So historical and actual data, hiyo inaweza kuwa kama maybe ya 2022. Ya 2022 tunasema hii ni how much tulifanya. Sasa going forward year 2023 ni nini inafaa tufanye ndio tuweze kuongezea mapato yetu ama our profits ama sales zetu, and then develop a base budget. Sasa hapo ndio una develop a budget yenye unataka sasa based on whatever objective uko nao for the year, and also comparison ya yenye uko nayo na hiyo year ya let's say 2022, because right now tuko 2023. And then you assess data and prepare now the budget. Sasa una assess after umefanya hivyo, unajua this year, kwa sababu most of the things unaweza ukapata in 2022 whatever price was there, kwa sababu sasa hizi unaona cost of inflation imekuwa so high, every month unapata inaenda ikisonga. So what are some of the things can we do? Sasa hapo ndio una assess your data and now you prepare your budget. After that una send to the committee. Na it's very important vile tumesema hiyo lazima tukue na board in place na also the committee, so that people who are experienced, they have expertise in these things, so that by the time you're coming up with a budget, it's good for them to have a look at it. Wanaangalia umekama up maybe ni ya finance ama ni treasurer amekama up with a budget, wanaangalia if this budget makes sense. Na if it does not make sense, tunaona hapo wameandika review budget then refine budget. Sasa inarudi back to assess the data and also prepare the budget. Then if at all sasa ime go through, ndio kupost na report the results. Sasa hapo ndio tunapost tunasema hii ndio budget tutakuwa tuna work nayo katika hii mwaka wa 2023, and then also monitor the progress and also amend. Kama kuna any maybe during the year unaona there's something maybe may come up, like for example right now maybe kuna budget yenye tulikuja nayo na ikakuwa approved in January. Now you see right now there's the housing thing, your housing 3% housing levy for now each and every employee. So is it something that we need to go back to the budget and try to adjust it? Ama we leave it as it is, but tunakuwa na justification by the end of the year. We say, yes, tumesema for staff, because this is how much in a cost. But now, due to these statutory requirements by the government, this is how we are moving forward. So it's very important for us to have very good planning, and also the budgeting process is very important. Compare what you have last year and what you're planning to do with this year. Have a clear objective of what you are targeting. Have other people to access your budget before now you can post and start using it. So I'll move to next, the importance of planning and budgeting. So planning and budgeting is very important because it creates a financial roadmap. Inatupatia mwelekeo of what the organization is going. And also, before I mention, we need also to have a strategic plan in place. Because our strategic plan is something that helps the organization. It draws like a roadmap for the organization, how they're supposed to go going forward. So a budget also creates a financial roadmap for your business. So with a budget in place, you can plan for future expenses for your business to help you with growth. But at the moment you have a budget, it's also very easy for you to make decisions. It's something that is already in the budget, it's something that was already approved. So making financial decisions in a very, very easy. And also a simple budget, it also guides our spending. At the moment on a budget, and then hey, by the way, during this year I had say 20, but so far I'm under 15. What can I do in order for me to minimize my spending? So it also limits. Inakupatia hiyo kizuizo yako, you don't overspend. And it also helps you to track your expenses and also your income. And also inakusaidia to build for emergency fund. Emergency funds are those funds that inaweza kukuja wakati wenye anything imetokea, unaweza ukaona hey, this thing, unasema wacha tutoe hapa kidogo tuweke for emergency fund ama tuweke kwa hii. So sometimes when you're budgeting, it's also important for you to include all these emergency funds and also save for major expenses. That one is very important, and it will help you so that you know once you've realized your sales, once you've realized your target for the year, that in terms of income, it's very easy for you now to able to also do other things. And also help her to set long-term financial goals. So you can be able to tell when it comes maybe during the last 5 years, this is what I've been able to do for budgeting. It's very easy for you now to set up goals and also to avoid risky spending. So we talk about risks, so to talk about the risk management strategies. It has also to cut on expenses and also to stop the risk that may occur. So budgeting is also important for those inakusaidia plan. It's also set you for financial roadmap na inakupatia mwelekeo. Decision making in an organization is very important. And also in terms of budgeting, also in a help for long-term financial goals. So inatusaidia to have that financial goals and itatusaidia between now and the next few years to come. So another thing tutafika ni how to achieve the third financial management. How can you be able to achieve the things that you are able to set the goals? Because a lot of people, even us, tunakuanga ile by the mwaka ikianza, we have our goals for the year. We say this year, maybe I need a new house. This year I need new. And then by the end of maybe half the year, hey, the things are not going the way they're supposed to go. What am I supposed to do in such a situation? Because when an organization, we have our targets. But by the end of the month or by the end of the year, what can we be able to do? Ni nini tunaweza kufanya in order for us sasa tuweze achieve what tunafaa kufanya. Sasa hapa ndio tunakuja in development of the policies and procedures. So policies and procedures are very important because they provide efficient financial management. Tumeongelea hapo enye tunasema how to request for your finances. Mkasema tu mna draw, but it's very important for you. Kama ni petty cash, inafaa ukwe na limit. Maybe in a month, ukwe ni 10,000. Anything on over and above that, you are supposed to refer it to the policy. And when you develop the policies, it's important also to take the staff. Organization yako lazima kila mtu aelewe ni vitu gani mnafanya na ni policies gani na ni importance gani hizo policies ziko ama ni nini inatusaidia na hizi policies in place. So hizi policies are very important. Financial policy is very important. Kuna na credit policy. In terms of now, kama you are selling a product, do you have to sell it on credit? Na kama ni credit, what are the terms and conditions, kwa sababu najua very well tuko na this the policy ya what do you call hizi mahoteli, kwa sababu na hoteli you cannot just book a hotel, lazima uwe na nini, you have to like do a deposit, na even if you do that deposit wameka mikakati ile ambayo ikifika hiyo wakati kama haujalipia then there's a certain percentage yenye watakata. So those are the policy yenye pia wewe unafaa uweke, na hiyo policy before now pia wakupatie kuna kwa kana ile you need to have a credit policy with them. So lazima organizations develop a credit policy ile yenye inasema hii organization yenye tumedeal nao maybe for this particular period na wamekuwa kilipa vizuri na ni kitu yenye tunaweza kupatia policy, na hiyo policy pia credit policy inafaa mko mmeweka imeandika by this particular period ikue over 30 days ama ni 20 days ama ni which are not days, so isipite hizo. So it's important for you to kuangalia, na pia kwa organization si vizuri kupatia na tu credit kama haujafanya rating of that person. Lazima uangalie hiyo customer amekuwa kininunulia vitu mara ngapi, na out of hiyo kulipia amekuwa kilipa in good time. So kama amekuwa kilipa in good time, so that's when you can have a credit policy with that person. Na even if you have that credit policy, lazima uwe na the time limit in that credit supposed to be paid. Na sometimes also policy inafaa kuweka policy before now mtu upate product or any service you are rendering to that person. Do they have to pay like 70% or which percentage, whichever percentage, you need to highlight it in the policy. For the employees in an organization, tuliongea hiyo mambo yenye ukienda field, for how long are they supposed to refund the money? Also inafaa ikuwe policy. Na make sure kila mtu kwa policy is aware of the policies and procedures in the organization. So that isikuwe na ile mvurugano katika organization, kusikuwe na ile challenges katika organization. Alafu also policies wanasema in align financial system with organization. Alafu also it mitigates risks. Tumeona kama hiyo vile tunasema we need like 70% payment ama 60% ama whichever percentage ikue. Na kama sometimes una sell a product online, sasa hiyo ndio policy ni inafaa kiwaene uko na policy ya product online. Inasema kama wewe ni customer wa kwanza una deal na yeye ama umedeal na yeye deal na huyo customer, lazima alipie goods in full, ndipo sasa wewe pia nayo ufanye nini uweze kumtumia bidhaa. Kwa sababu a lot of people tumeona hata wewe maybe by the end of this session you can give experience ni kitu gani mmewahi fanya ama kununua bidhaa products online ama kutumanisha products. Unapata umetumanisha huyo customer amepata but amedisappear, hajakulipa. So ni nini inafaa ufanye ku avoid hiyo risk? So those are risk mitigation, mikakati ya kupunguza tishio katika biashara. So inafaa pia hizo pia uko umeziweka into place so that organization yako you don't go at a loss. So hizo pia inafaa ikuwe kwa policy. Ndio sasa before kama ni accountant ama ni nani anauza hizo bidhaa, anajua these are the policies. Before nitumanishe kitu ama before product imeuzwa katika online, inafaa huyo mtu afanye nini? Akuwa amelipia upfront before now product itumwe. Alafu something else also in increase efficiency, hiyo tumesema ina help organization operate within the set rules and regulation to help meet expectations. Sasa hiyo pia ina reduce a lot of things zenye hazifai katika organization. Pia tumeongea hizo policies. Unaweza kwa policies pia it's important whenever hata kama unapatia mtu kitu maybe in an organization, make sure that person amesign. Kama ni training na umempatia cash, make sure that amesign. Kama pia mnaweza kuhave na policy kama going forward hakuna kuhandle cash, maybe that person una receive unamtumia kwa M-Pesa ama through bank account, so that you avoid your risk ya kupoteza pesa kwa organization ama ile risk yenye mtu anasema hakupata pesa. Na kama ni lazima patiwe cash, lazima kukuwe na we have petty cash vouchers for documentation, because it's very important. Even as we proper management for accountability, we need to have proper documentation. Kama kuna ile hakuna receipt, kuna petty cash voucher, make sure watu wamesign hiyo. Efficiency is very important. Wamesign hiyo petty cash, unasema hii ndio amount, hii ndio in case of anything. Unajua mtu anaweza kupata maybe kitu imehappen, maybe umepatia huyo mtu imepotea. How can you be able to prove that he pesa actually nilipea mtu? Ni through the signature amepatiana. Na hata through that hizo policies, make sure policies pia ina highlight. Mtu akileta budget inafaa naandika. Kama anaenda training, say for example I'm attending community week, the training with Ecotourism Kenya this particular date and this, make sure it's very clear so that hata mtu akikuja documentation 5 years 10 years anaweza kuona actually a training was conducted Na in case kama kuna any shida, they can even call ecotourism. Oh, by there's a certain day from 31st of July to August. There's this training that you conducted, that there was this, a very easy here for us also on our side to confirm. I love it also helps manager and supervisors to make consistent and reliable decisions. That one also tunaongelea kwa sababu ni policies are there. So unaangalia tu kwa policy, unaona hii ndio mambo ambayo imeongelewa na hii ndio procedure inafaa tufanye. So alafu tumeongelea, make sure you give a clear understanding of employees, wameelewa hii policy, wameelewa vile wanafaa kuomba pesa katika organization, wameelewa siku yenye inafaa kurudishwa, wameelewa vikwazo ama limits zenye zimewekwa hapo in order for them kupatiwa hizo pesa. Alafu pia ina reduce misunderstanding, hiyo ni disputes. Na in Kiswahili I don't know how disputes inazuia mvurugano katika organizations. So another thing in tutaenda, so that is number 1 under principle. So number 2 tutasema understand the basic cost principle. So what is a reliable cost? So sometimes when we are doing like hiyo tumeongelea about now to have internal control system in place, that is the policies in an organization. Number 2, sometimes we need to have basic cost principles. Na hii I think also inafaa under the policies. Because sometimes tumeona even at the Mara or everywhere else, unapata bidhaa maybe inauzwa, maybe ni chain ama bracelet. Unaona hiyo ni 100 ama 200. But sasa unapata that's because this is a tourist. Unapata mtu ameongeza cost that matches. So inafaa the moment una come up with a cost, make sure it's a policy. Yenye ukiuza kitu ina match, sasa ndio you attract more customers. Matches your market price for comparable service and prices. So need something that matches the prices. So it's going to inflate two things just because. Now make sure it's within now the market or the inflation rate during that particular, or is this something that you can be continuing to improve as you move on? Sababu inflation inaenda ikiongezeka. And then also how costs will be allocated among other items. So follow established policies and procedures. Sababu unapata sometimes watu wamekuwa allocated, wanakwambia uza hii bidhaa. But just because they anataka an additional cost, unapata anauzia maybe a tourist ama mtu yote amekuja at a very costly price. So ni vizuri for us to be honest with whatever tunafanya. Understand the basic cost principle so that you can be able to sell your products well. And then something ingine tena that is very important within the organization on how to handle our finances, ni implement financial control systems. So financial control system is zitakuwa under the policies. So one of the crucial steps in implementing financial is identify risk. Identify which are kind of the risks that I'm supposed to are within my business. Unaangalia which are kind of risk. Some zingine uko na products. Umeweka kwa your business hapa, umeset up, umeweka. So which are kind of risk? Maybe kunaweza kuwa na moto itokeze ichome. Tumeona a good example ni Gikomba. You've seen somebody make like a new stock. Then in the morning ameamka, fire ndio hiyo. What are you supposed to do in terms of those? Do you have maybe to have a policy where you have to have insured your products? Those are some of the internal control, and you mnaweza agree, then you say we can take up the risk. What else can you be able to do? Alafu in terms of when you wanatoroka na credit, maybe umepatia customer things on credit. What are some of the things yenye inafaa ufanye? So for a customer, are they supposed to pay full? Ama do you have to have like a credit with them? Ile yenye wanafaa kusign a form. In case if they don't pay that, is it something that you can be able to take them to a court of law? So those are some of the things yenye tunafaa kufanya. Alafu internal control system. Also we talked about the signatures. Now we're supposed to authorize what? Also segregation of duties. We need also to have procurement procedures. What are we supposed to do? Alafu sometimes also about procurement. Unapata mtu, we need to have like 3 to 4 quotations. So si ile tenye unasema, nimeangalia na hii hoteli ama nimeangalia na huyu na nimepata hii product ni hivi. Wacha ulizia like 4 to 4 organizations, then try to compare the prices in order for you now to come with the best price possible. Alafu also that one is to prevent fraud and prevention of, that is prevention measure for fraud. So it's important for us to have procedures for procurement, each and everything that you're going to do. Segregation of duties is also very important. How you use our expenditure. Balance sheet, also reconciliation. We need to have set systems. Tunasema by the end of the month or by the end of the week, tunafaa kufanya reconciliation, tumetuma maybe kwa treasurer. Ama kama ni treasurer mwenyewe, amepresent kwa board. anasema hii ndio vitu tumetumia katika mwezi na hii ndio tumefanya, so that kama kuna anything yenye inaweza leta tatanishi, they can be able to correct it. Those are some of the things. Alafu also another key aspect implementing financial is designing and implementing actual controls themselves. So it's important to ensure that these controls are tailored specifically to address the identified risk while also being practical and feasible for employees to follow. Since even when we develop the policies and procedures, ni lazima tuelewe ni which kind of risks as an organization tumekuwa. Kama maybe hatujakuwa na maybe software system ya capture our documents. So by the end of the day, kama hatuna any good systems za capture our document, we are doing zero work in terms of financial management, effective financial management. For us to have effective financial management, we need to implement financial controls. We need to have systems like QuickBooks, Sage. We need to have all those in place for us to have a sound na tukwe tumeweza kutekeleza mahitaji yetu vizuri. So another thing is on the steps in financial control process. Yes. So number one, assess company's current performance. So hizo ni steps now. So una analyze your performance. Unaangalia hii mwaka ni nini nimeweza kufanya ama ni challenges gani tumeweza kupata kama organization ama kama CBO. Ni organizing challenges gani tumeweza kufanya ama ni nini tumeweza kuongeza ama ni nini imeweza kutoka. Alafu after umefanya hivyo, detect and correct financial irregularities. Kama kuna anything yenye umedetect during the course, maybe kama unasema hamuna any policies in place, do you think it's something that we need to have policies in place in order for us now? Kama tuna request petty cash, iko na nini yake? Kama unataka mtu afanye check, kuna kitu tunaita requisition form. So your requisition form lazima uandike the expense yenye umefanya, type na the reason that you are requesting for that. So it's very also important. Ndio unaangalia unasema, last time we give money but it was not signed anywhere. But this time round, we need to have like a requisition form where now when you're sending this, they're supposed to sign here so that you can give them the money. Ama kama hamuna any, measures, control measures, by the end of the project, unafaa uko umerudisha hizo. Do you need to have those control measures in place zenye tunafaa mtu akichukua hii pesa ya organization by this particular time inakuwa imefaa rudishwe. And then we also need to update our financial documents regularly. Just like the way nimesema, we can do it on a daily basis. Bookkeeping is very important. So as much as tunasema hivyo vingine, make sure even if it's 10 book that you are using, unairecord. Hata kama ni kwa petty cash, we do have petty cash vouchers for miscellaneous spending. We do have for salaries zenye tunalipa on a daily basis. Make sure hata kama unalipa mtu 2,000, 1,000, make sure it's documented so that by the end of the week, ama by the end of the month, we can be able to tell our finances, tuseme hii ndio tulipata na hii ndio tuliweza kutumia. Sasa tunajua ni ngapi imebaki. Alafu also explain organization operational policies. Just like to examine, just like the way tumesema, maybe we may develop policies and then during the year, we may notice, hizi policies we may develop, there's something that is missing. Is it something that you think now needs to be changed? That one is very important. So examine the policies that are there. Because of the policies, unaona, they keep on, zinaenda kukua improve. Right, currently, mnaona improve the finance policy. That is one is very important. Because waliona, there is this thing that inafanya nini, housing. Wali notice, kuna watu wamekosa housing. So wakasema, wacha tufanye nini, we have a policy in place where I can be deducting the 3% from employer and employer in order for Kenya to have affordable housing. So those are some of the things you as an organization ukiangalia. Unaangalia organization yetu unasema, which are kind of policies zenye niki-implement naweza ku-improve my selling in my organization. And then something else, we improve operating standards and decision-making processes. Because sometimes unaweza ukapata decision-making, it takes too long. Maybe there are no procedures in place. What can we be able to do? Can we be able to have like procedures to say maybe, for example, we come up with a budget. We say once finance may approve that budget, finance committee actually, when it goes to the board, is just to endorse it. So what are some of the procedures? Ama kama unaona procedure is take long, is this something that the chief executive officer, ama whoever is in charge, the community? Sometimes even when we are taking the training, we've been dealing with community. They don't have decision makers. And I was glad when Edwin also took you through yesterday, about leadership and management. It was important for that cause. So in terms of decision making, kuna decisions in a take long. Is it something that you as CBTOs, you can sit down and decide, you say, okay, fine. Maybe the treasurer, are you within the CBO? Is this something that we agree na tuone, wacha tuweke huyu person to be in charge of finance in such a way that when the budgets come, you can be able to check them. Once approved and apeleka kwa finance, then that's it. And then make focus and set goals for different scenarios. So it's good to focus. Kama saizi unaweza ukasema, we can focus for mpaka until even December. Useme between now, what am I want to achieve between now and December? Also set yourself goals that you need to achieve. And I also use scenarios. Useme kama last time, maybe this is what I did, now this is what I achieved this time. What can I be able to do different in order for me to achieve? So all these steps in financial controls are very important. Assess your company's performance, current performance, detect and correct financial irregularities in case zimekuja, update financial document regularly. Now make sure you have the correct receipts in order for you, alafu examine the organizational operational policies, improve operating standards and decision making. Make sure you improve. Kama kuna watu wa 10 ama ni wangapi, make sure you can even 2 or 3, so that decision making becomes so easy. So that one also mnaweza kuangalia within the organization, money how you can make decisions, alafu make focus for different scenarios. So, tutaona hapa sasa ni importance of financial planning. So hiyo tumeona financial planning helps us gather important information. So this is a process also important because it helps us gather important financial information. It also helps us establish goals and objectives within that particular time. Because about they set goals and objectives that are supposed to achieve. Also, financial planning helps us to do that. Inatusaidia also to evaluate the current situation. From the moment you plan, unajiambia these are some of the important things that I'm supposed to do. Which goals and objectives? Ni matakwa gani mimi nafaa kutekeleza? Ama ni goals gani nafaa kutekeleza? Mimi niko wapi? Are my cash flow okay? Niko na pesa ama sina? Ama ni nini nafaa kufanya? Alafu also develop a comprehensive plan. Ni plans gani nafaa kufanya? So out of umegather information, umesema these are my goals, this is the current situation. Sasa ni plans gani nataka nifanye in order for mimi sasa niweze kutekeleza matakwa yangu, alafu kuna implement the plan. So once umedevelop hiyo yote, it's good now you start working on that plan. Unasema nimesema this year nataka nianze kufanya nini? Advertisement maybe on Facebook or whatever advertisement. Let me start doing it. And then periodic ongoing review. So every time that you set these plans, it's good for you to review. Because this is where the challenge is coming in. A lot of people, you develop good budgets, they develop good plans, but do you always review it? Last time nilisema, this is what I want for my organization. This time, what am I going to do? No, kama last time ulisema, maybe right now, you don't even have a website for your organization. Hauna any Facebook account. So you just rely people, maybe when they visit you at the post or at the Masai Mara, that's when you can be able to sell your product. But umona yo maybe na take long, ama pia sometimes you don't get enough for you to sustain. But business is all about sustainability. So what are you supposed to do? Do I need now to start maybe nifungue Facebook account, nifungue Twitter, nifungue Instagram, in order for me to be able to sell your product? So those are some of the important information you need to have. Ndio sasa uweze kutekeleza. Ama there's some things in an organization, maybe in terms of expenses, maybe hauna mtu wa kukumarketia. So is it something that maybe naweza kulipa mtu kidogo aweze kunisaidia kwa hii kazi? So those are some of the things that we need to do in order for us now to realize our finances and also to be able to manage our finances well. So something else, this is just something as an additional to whatever we've learned. So tumeona the 5 ways of financial management. So it's cash flow, track the money going in and out. So we need to have our cash flow. Every time we need to have cash flows in place in order for us to track the money in and money out. Now it's important for us to be honest in terms of now receiving money for those who receive cash. And I can encourage M-Pesa. We can do the M-Pesa way, or manage customers and sales, know and understand your customer through records. So that's what we may talk about credit limit. So tunafaa kuangalia which are customers that they keep on coming. So those is also important. Alafu obtain goods and services production. Make sure you have goods and services in place. Alafu funding to be considered for loan. So sometimes it's good to have bank accounts in case you want like a loan for you to expand your business. it's important not to have these things. Alafu instance and decision making. Decision making in every organization is very important, because if decision making are taking long, they always derail other things. So it's very important to make informed decision with financial reports and also to have good people in terms of decision making. So that's it for session 1. In case we have any question before now, we can go for break and then we come up for session 2 about bookkeeping and records. Because by the end of the day, if we don't have the bookkeeping, if we don't keep the records, then managing our finances, it can be very hard, and you cannot be able now to obtain whatever you had targeted for the period. So that's it. I'll ask maybe 2 or 3, to ask questions before now we can break. Maybe you can have like a 10 minutes break before now we come back. Any question with what so far we had presented? Question? Any question, comments? Hello, any question? You can also put it on a comment section in case you have any question. Okay, so we'll break for 2 minutes and we'll come back at around 11:15 actually, for us to continue with the second session. So thank you so much for that. And we'll come back for that for bookkeeping and accounting. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I can see somebody has sent a chat. I've learned a lot in the first session, looking forward for more the second session. Thank you so much, Jonathan Chen. Thank you for that comment. So we look forward for the second session. That is, you're coming back at 11:15. Thank you. I can see Mary Kimel, tips of method of ongoing investors. So that is, maybe you can expand further. Or tips on method of getting investors, yeah. Because for getting investors is important now for you to have one of the things that can really help you to get investors. Firstly, is you need to have your records. Bookkeeping, financial statements are very important. For every investor now to invest in your business, you need to have records. Records are very important. We need to have policies in place, so that are some of the things that the investor will be looking at. First of all, they'll come for your books. They see how your performance is. And secondly, now the records, because they're very important. And also thirdly, it's also to see the internal control system, the policies that are in place. Because most of the people, they don't want to risk, especially with the investors. They're always very keen on whatever policies and procedures are within the organization, so that they can be able to know whether this is a risky venture or there are some of the risks that maybe has already been mitigated. So it's very important for us to have internal procedure, good internal systems within the organization, and also record keeping is very important in terms of now attracting investors for your business. So Mary Kimeu, I think I've answered your question. So thank you, people. We'll be back at exactly 11:15. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. So the next session is about bookkeeping and accounting. So bookkeeping and accounting is very important in our today, in helping us now to manage our finances within our organizations. And it also helps us with accountability and transparency, and also for effective allocation of resources. So bookkeeping is a very important aspect for enable us now to manage our finances well. So we're being told that it's a process of keeping track of business financial transactions, because remember, bookkeeping is a daily activity, that each and every day we are supposed to give an account of whatever things that you are doing, whether it's an income, whether it's a product that you sold, whether it's a service that we've already delivered to our customers. We need to keep track of our records, and that is on the financials. So bookkeeping can be done in the book software, either a QuickBook or whatever software that you have. It's important for you to track those. Also include recording of money received and also in and out of the organization. For accounting, is just storing information all about the financial transactions and events of a business. So bookkeeping is about keeping records now in the software, and then after that, we can be able now to generate. So accounting is about generating all those in terms of financial report, cash flow statement, balance sheet, and all that. So different between bookkeeping and accounting, we can be able to see bookkeeping. That is cash versus accrual. We're supposed to do that. We have ledgers. We have cash books. That is, we talk about the petty cash vouchers. We talk about requisitions. We talk about receipts, what we need to submit in order for us now to be able to be accountable for whatever money that you've been given. And we can see it's a sales invoice, purchases invoice, payroll, general ledger, while accounting is reporting, interpretation of the books of account, taxation. Bookkeeping, it helps us now by the end of the period, we can be able to be accountable to KRA. We say this is how much you've been receiving during the year. And these are the reports. And these are the supporting documents. Because without the supporting documents, then we cannot be able to manage our finances well. Another thing is, why should we keep bookkeeping? So bookkeeping is important because it keeps us off. When we have, it's very easy. Even if you leave today and another person comes in tomorrow, it's very easy for that person to be able to see that actually this is what was happening. So we already kept our documents to make that in a very organized manner. And also it backs up our tax return. Because by the end of the period, sasa sijui kama nyinyi mko na auditors when they audit your books of account, so it needs a backup. For you to be able to submit the returns to KRA, the auditor needs to come analyze those reports that you've already been given. But analyzing those reports, they need also to counter check it with the kind of receipts, kind of invoices that you have, kind of payroll that you have. They actually confirm that actually whatever you've already submitted, it's what's in the records and it's also what's in the receipt books. Alafu accounting also holds you accountable. So at the moment, if you submit the records and you don't have any supporting documentation, how will you be able to be accountable for that? So it's always important when you do something, you have the supporting documents, and that's how you being held accountable. That's how you're being held transparent. So accountable ni wewe kuwa, what do we call it in Kiswahili? Kuweza kuelezea how you've arrived at that particular record. Sorry?
Kuwajibika.
Okay, thank
Kuwajibika.
Or kuwajibika, exactly. Thank you so much for that. So wanasema it holds you accountable, kuwajibika, so that you can be able now to say, hii ndio my records na nimewajibika sababu niko na records na enye inanisupport, niko na receipts, niko hapa na vitabu zenye nimekuwa nikiandika matumizi yangu na inakuwa rahisi kwa mimi kupeana records. And it also guides our decision making kwa sababu tukiwa na records inakuwa even rahisi kwa sisi kufanya budget ya mwaka ujao. Kama sasa hivi 2023 tuko 2023. Kama tumeweza kukeep our records vizuri, tuko na all the supporting documentation. Hata kama ni shilingi 5 umetumia shilingi 10, make sure those records are kept. So that ikikuja next year, it can be able to form the decision. Tunaweza kusema enyewe this is how much tulitumia na hii ndio records na hizi ndio vitabu. Inakuwa rahisi kwa sisi kumake decision kusema enyewe tunaweza hii kufikia hii mwaka hii ndio tunaweza kufanya. Alafu you need it to get investments for loan. So bookkeeping is important, just like the way my colleague was asking, how can you be able to attract investors? We attract investors through bookkeeping because at the moment we have good records. It's very easy for investors even to invest in our businesses. And that's when a lot of challenges even it comes with Cbtes. So a lot of Cbtes, they're doing nice things out there, but they don't have supporting records. Naenda, you don't come with the receipts. It's important for you, receipts ukwe nayo. Na make sure it's a valid receipt. It's not something that you've just documented, then unakuja just because you need. And that's why tunasema transparency. It's very important for us to be effective in allocation of resources. Because otherwise, you can fake receipts. It also becomes difficult for an accountant or a treasurer to be able to come up with a budget that can be able to make decisions. And also, you can measure new strategies. So whenever you have bookkeeping, it's very easy for you to be able to measure new strategies. Last year, this is how much I used, maybe for an advertisement. How can I be able now to do this year? Because I did this and this is how much was coming. Should I now upgrade so that I can be able to tackle more customers? So bookkeeping also, it's very important because it helps us measure. Sorry, it helps us now to measure new strategies. So importance of bookkeeping, we already said, you can budget accurately. So it helps you to budget accurately for this coming year, because that will be something that you already have the records. It's a financial roadmap for your business. And then it keeps you prepared for taxation. We've already spoke about that, because we already have the books of account ready. The receipts are there, they are documented, they are filed. So it's very important for you to have that. And then also maintain organized records. We already spoke about that. The records are well maintained. There's no stress of last minute. There's no stress whenever the investor nakuja, you start cooking things. So it becomes very easy for you now to give the records. Remember, these are our records. You can go through it. It's also easy to see business targets. So every business wants to, but poor financial records can stop you from happening. Because if we don't keep, now that's why you see a lot of businesses are not growing. Why? Because we don't have records. We cannot be able to tell. Like, remember the way I've taken you through the process of planning and budgeting process. So if at all you don't have records, how will you be able to know that 2023, this is how much I performed, and going forward, this is how much I'm supposed to perform? You cannot even be able to tell whether you're making profits ama ni unafanya hasara katika biashara yako. So the moment ukiweka records zako, ni important for you to put those records for easy targets of your business. So another thing that you look at, because in every business, because tumona kama biashara kama maybe uko na store ya bracelets, uko na nini, kuna risk ya wizi, kuna risk ya fire ikuje. Like juzi kuna kwa maandamano, and there's another lady tuliona kwa TV. Alikuwa analia kwa sababu nimeweka tu store doors like yesterday or the other day within the week. And then things happen. Everything, the stock was stolen. So what can you be able to do with such a risk in order for us to minimize those? Pia tukongelea in terms of now, umeuza product yako online. Ama umepata customer, maybe you've not been doing that. Maybe sasa vile umesema unaenda through social media for advertise. Ukapata a potential buyer, sorry. Nasema I need this particular product. What are you supposed to do to mitigate those risks to identify? So risk management encompasses the identification. First, you need to identify vile mimi nauza hizi products zangu, which are kind of risks. Na kama wewe ni mtu mwenye una offer accommodation, which are kind of risks. Sometimes unaweza kupata there's somebody maybe amebook na fake credit card. Nini? Ama sometimes umebook. So what are you supposed to do? Is that person supposed to pay a deposit before now? You can be able now to offer accommodation to that person. Or if it's a product, that person needs to pay it upfront in order for me now to transfer those products. So these are some of the risks that you can be able to help us manage our finances well, to mitigate them. We identify it, we analyze within our organization, angalia which kind of product unapatiana, which kind of service unapatiana, and what are kind of risks zenye zinapatikana. So for that, let me just ask maybe 2 or 3 people, they share experience of the kind of risk maybe they have encountered in the course of their businesses. Ni tishio gani ambayo ama hatari gani ambayo umekutana nayo katika kufanya biashara yako kama CBTO? So unaweza ukatuelezea ni risk gani ambayo ulikuwa nayo na how did you overcome that risk? Ni nini ulifanya ukaweza overcome that risk in terms of maybe ulipoteza pesa, maybe through an M-Pesa, ama mtu alikuja akakupatia fake money cash. So how did ulifanya haje na kuliendaje ama what did you do? So naweza kupenda watu wawili wa share, then we can go on how to mitigate those risks. So watu wawili, 2 volunteers, maybe they can share. Or you can even post it on the comment section. For wale wenye you cannot be able to unmute yourself, you can post it on the comment section. Useme the kind of physical challenge because najua kuna challenges with the business. Business haikosi challenges. Lazima kuwe na challenges yenye experience na how did you overcome those challenges? Uliwezaje ku overcome tishio kama hiyo, mikakati ambayo uliweka kuweza kupunguza tishio kama hilo? Jonathan, would you like to say something? Joy, Ngarendave, Mercy, Cbte. Anyone can share experience?
Okay, thank you. I think first and foremost, one of the reasons as to why we decided to using bank payment method because get someone paying through M-Pesa and then later on they want to reverse the money. Get such scenarios. Yeah, so that's why at some point you had to lose some money. I remember at the time we lost around 4,600.
Okay.
Yeah, so we said as we're still working on our M-Pesa payment methods, we have our bank account there, you pay, and then everything is sorted. So that's how I think I overcame that kind of risk.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan, for sharing that. I think that's something that we'll tackle as we also look at the risk management strategy. Somebody else would like to share the experience of kind of risk they encountered in the course of now transacting or doing business? Kuna mtu mwingine angependa kushare mikakati ama the risks, hiyo ni tishio sorry, ambayo waliweza kupitia wakati wakifanya biashara zao? I can see there's a comment on the chat. So there's Joy anasema there was one time a client paid with a check which ended up bouncing. We had since only allowed card or M-Pesa for payments and not checks for trusted clients. So thank you so much for the two of you. I don't know if there's anyone else would love to also share the experience, because it happens a lot of times, especially during conferences or if you deal with a client that you've ever dealt with before. So it's important, and those are some of the things that we have already discussed. We need to have internal control in place. In case we are dealing with a customer for the first time, what are we supposed to do? Or in such a situation where, like the way Jonathan has shared, where somebody has already paid by M-Pesa, then after some few minutes, they have reverted the amount. What are we supposed to do? So in terms of risk management and capacity identification, so that is a good experience for the two of you, that is for Joy and Jonathan. It's a good thing now you've already identified risk. And then after identification, how did you analyze it to say, okay, we have analyzed this risk and we see maybe going forward, we can stop now receiving the M-Pesa payment with all cash or direct bank transfer. So next thing is now, how can we risk management process? What are some of the things that we need to do in order for us to manage our risks? So there's another Nzuki, Michael Nzuki is saying, I was robbed 3 times, but rented expensive and safe shop. So I think maybe the location also matters a lot. It's also good now you analyze. Maybe your risk is about theft, just like Mike has said. So what are some of the things that you need to do? For him, he analyzed and he see, in order for me to be able now to tackle this risk, what am I supposed to do? Even if I can look for something expensive, but it's something that can be able maybe to be sustainable, the thefts are not come, and my business will be on a safe place. So risk management process. So what are we supposed to, in case now we've encountered the risk, what are we supposed to do? So we need to assess your risks, just like the way you said. You've already experienced, now going forward, what are you supposed to do? So first thing is need to assess your risks. Secondly, prioritizing your risk. You say that this is the kind of risk that I've encountered. Somebody came and broke to my shop, or somebody gave us like a fake credit card, or somebody did a transfer, but now they reverted the money. So what are we supposed to do in that? What are we supposed to prioritize? Do we need like to open the bank account immediately? Or do we need now to move the pochi la biashara? Because most of the time nowadays, in order for us not to avoid this thing of now reversing money, there's pochi la biashara. Because for pochi la biashara, the moment you set the money, you cannot be able to revise, unlike now the normal M-Pesa. And also nowadays, I'm happy that the bank have also embraced some, they give, like, for example, if you have an account with them, there's a kind of pay bill. Because I believe Equity, we have 247. For Barclays, I don't know, they have something to do 500, 400, and then it's very easy. So for you to avoid all these things, it's important also for you now to link your bank with now your M-Pesa in such a way that in order, instead of now receiving cash, because even receiving cash, it has got its own risk. You've seen people where they broke into apartments or into businesses and stole everything that they have. But when you send money directly to the bank, maybe through the pay bill provided by the bank or through the pochi la biashara, they have only sold the phone or maybe your goods, but now your money is at the safe place. So what are you supposed to prioritize in case you identify your risk? What are some of the priorities you're supposed to do? So number 3, figure out your risk profile. So sometimes you need to identify risk as an organization, just like the way you said. There's risk of people having credit cards returned. There's risk of death, there's fire. So figure out your risk profile. And then after you figure out your risk profile, choose your risk strategies. What are some kind of strategies that I'm supposed to do? Do I need to insure my goods, or what am I supposed to do? Do I need to now put policies in place where that the moment the customer comes, it's a first-time customer, we cannot accredit the credit cards. What are we supposed to do? We can only do for maybe coming customers. But now for the new customers, it's either they pay through M-Pesa or they do like a direct bank transfer in order for us not to mitigate all those risks. And in terms of now the credit limit, what are the people who are entitled to be given a credit? So those are some of the strategies that as an organization, we need to put in place. We just don't give credit to anybody. And also with regards to modes of payment, we need to also to analyze. Like for example, the use of credit card, Joey. So it's good for us now to have, if you're a first-time customer, there's no credit card. You either pay by M-Pesa, or if it's an international guest, they can do money transfer. And even before they do that, they're supposed to do like a specific percentage before now they visit. Then after they visit, before now a day two, maybe when they're going, we need to have a policy in place that they're supposed to pay everything before now they can check out. So that one is very important. And also executing your risk strategy. How do we supposed to execute your risk strategy? That one I've already spoke about it. It's true now, the policies and procedures, and also people to pay upfront before they leave. In case it's an online thing, you don't just send your goods and products. In order for us to mitigate those risks, make sure that somebody or that person has already sent the money upfront before now you can be able now to send the goods. And then measuring residual risk. So measuring risk is very important. So by the end of the day, that's when after you measure, that's when you can be able, measuring and assessment, they are the same thing. So you measure what is the weight of this risk. So in order, maybe it keeps on repeating, what am I supposed to do? So those are some of the things that we are supposed to do for an organization in order for us to now manage our money effectively. So you see the techniques of management. Number 1, there's risk avoidance. How can you be able to avoid our risk? Risk acceptance, mitigation, exploitations, and risk transfer. So risk avoidance, many times it's not possible to completely avoid risk, but the possibility should not be overlooked. So there's sometimes that we cannot avoid completely, we cannot avoid something that can happen. You remember during COVID, those are some of the things that we did. Nobody expected COVID, but it was there. So what can we be able to do? So some of the things that we can avoid now that it does not keep on occurring. So there is I've already given an example. You're the customer, product online, they're supposed to pay upfront. In case of your booking and accommodation, there's a specific percentage. So those are how to avoid those risks to occur. So that ukiona kama kuna hey, huyu anaweza kosa kunilipa, at least you've already covered yourself. For that person, if he doesn't then pay upfront for you to deliver the goods, then you can as well leave it, you don't. Or sometimes you can do, if it's within the place that you are in, you can have maybe a rider in place, somebody that you really, really trust, for that somebody to deliver your products. When your product is at the customer, they pay before now the product can be left with the customer. Those are also some of the good strategies that you can do in terms of now selling online for the person who have requested. Or in terms of accommodation, we have already spoke about. It's something that I can see, Jonathan, you've raised your hand. Maybe you can say something before I continue. Jonathan?
Okay, I've just remembered one of the risks also we incurred, I think some 1 year back, you know, with the bike share, the bike tour, you get some people, before you get a bike, we require that you leave us with your ID and then you go with the bike. So you'll find some people are not even afraid. They are not afraid of losing their ID. So they will leave the ID and go with the bike and then go take how do you call it, abstract from the police and then go look for another ID. So the way we overcame this risk, so we found that we had lost around 2 bikes. So what we did is before you take a bike, you leave us with ID and then we take a picture of you with the bike, holding the bike. So in case you go missing, we find you. At least we can go all over social media, post to say this guy took a bike, he has not returned, if you know him, blah blah. So I think that way has also improved, and we have never had such cases. Right now we are working on how we can install maybe GPS on those bikes so that we can be able to monitor whenever someone is not around.
Yeah,
that is
Yeah, continue.
That is what I wanted to share. I mean.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that, for sharing that. But it's also important now in terms of bike, there's the tracking. You can also implement the tracking device where you can be able to track where that motor vehicle or the person who is using that motor vehicle. Alternatively, you can also use the contract. Contract is also very important. They sign the contract, and just like you say, the ID together with the photo helps a lot. And some cases, whenever you have a lawyer, it's also very important for you to mitigate all those risks. Those are very important. But I think in this case, the contract is very important because for contract, it can be able to surface well in a court of law. So thank you so much for that experience, Jonathan, and also for sharing for us now to understand the kind of risks we can be able to explore in different sectors. And then we have also risk acceptance. This means that a company is consciously aware of the risk and deliberately plans to retain all of it or part of it. We've already spoke about that. For sometimes a good example is an insurance. Like you, for example, you have a motor vehicle that just like the way you say, you listen to the people, or I don't know if you employ people to ride for you. But now instead of you now taking a comprehensive, because you know for comprehensive, it can be able to cover you and also the bike and also the third party. But you also go ahead and also do what? The third party only, of which it only covers the other vehicle or the other motor vehicle, but it doesn't cover you. So those are some of the things what are we supposed to do? Because those are some you've accepted the risk. Or alternatively, unaweza kutumia example pia, maybe uko na biashara. Na hiyo biashara unajua anytime maybe umeweka katikati ya town. Na kuweka katika hiyo katikati ya town, saa zingine kuna na demonstration. Na kukiwa na demonstration, the highly possibility yenye people will break into your shop and they steal the goods. So instead of you taking an insurance, you are fully aware of the risk that you have in there. But wewe umeendelea kufanya nini? You don't take. So that is risk acceptance. Umekubali, in case itokeleze, maybe that's what I'll do. And then risk mitigation. This is the process of planning for a disaster or having a way to lessen negative impacts. Like COVID, it taught us very important lesson. So it's always good for us to save money for future, even as a business. Having an insurance policy for your members, maybe for you as a Cbte may have work benefit, work insurance, WIBA, that is, you might have it in place just to cover your employer liability in case somebody is moving around the office, then they break their leg or something. We need to have those. Reserve accounts, for example, in a good organization, we need to have a reserve account. As much as we're making profit and also we are saving, we need to save for emergency funds for an organization for rainy days. And nowadays, there's many modes of saving. There is the money market funds, kuna treasury bills and bonds. For treasury bills, that's a short time with the government. It's like lending to the government, and then they return for a period of 1 year. They give you at a certain rate. So those are some of the things that you are supposed to do. Or also regularly maintenance of your machines can also help, or regularly checking on how you are doing. Like you see the finances. Do we need to have like an internal auditor, maybe on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis? Or do we need like to have a finance committee? Because it's very important for us to have a finance, or if you don't have a finance, mnakuwa na board. In what a way that every month you assess your finances. Unasema, this is what is happening. Where are the records? Unaangalia, are the receipts are in order? Pia hiyo ni vizuri, itawasaidia to mitigate your risks zenye zinakuja. So emergency funds are very important. Just work at something, even if it's a fixed deposit account for the bank, it's important for you to put that for rainy days. And then risk exploitation. This means that you can take advantage or actions to ensure that opportunity will happen to your favor. So for example, you have a project, maybe you've written a very good proposal. What are some of the things you can be able to do so that you don't struggle as an organization? So you need to have a competitive price level, delivering high quality proposal in such a way that it can be able to target your administrative expenses. It can be able to target maybe your employees. Maybe you can say a specific can go to administration, or you take your employee within the organization so that they can be able to be in charge of the project, so that there's some amount which can come to the organization, just to ensure that the organization is running without any challenges. And then there is risk transfer in such a way that in case a risk comes, what am I supposed to do in such a case? So risk transfer is all about now, that's a form of mitigation, but now you can take up an insurance. Just like the way Mike Suzuki shared, he said that, hey, there's another time alikomeka, then thieves, every time they come, wanakimwibia kwa biashara yake. So what did he do? Akona, the most important thing ni kufanya nini? Let me change the location. So in such a situation kama hii, you can either change the location ama you take up an insurance. So in order for you, ndio sasa in case maybe there is a moto imetokelezea, kama kuna moto, ama kuna wezi wameiba, ama hiyo wakati wa demonstration vitu zimekuja zimeharibiwa, at least the insurance company can be able to cover. So those are some of the risk mitigation. Risk avoidance, how can you avoid your risks? By now, plan in advance, unaweka mikakati, you put policies in place just to guide you in terms of customers who are coming, the new customers, the ongoing customers, just to help them now to be able to trade smoothly without now any complications. Risk acceptance, sometimes you may accept risk if it's something that you see is not that major. And then there is mitigation, the process of planning, having something, emergency fund, just in case something happens, what am I supposed to do? Exploitation, we've talked about the project that you can be able to implement, do it for your favor. Make sure that there's at least something that comes to for the organization. Risk transfer. Angalia, if your finances allow, take an insurance cover for your products and services so that in case of anything, you are fully covered. So that's it with regards to risk management. And then we have small business financial management. So that one, we can just choose employee benefits. So it's very important, even as we try to manage our finances, we try to make sure that the organization remain afloat. What are some of the things that we need to do? We always call employees the first customers of organization. Consider what is benefit you will be able to offer to your team. Because this is something that most of the organization forget about. Your team, the people who drive the organization. It's very important for them also choose some benefits. You may even do medical, small benefits. There's some things, flexible working hours. It doesn't need to be monetary. Those are some of the things that we can put. And then stay intentional. Set short-term and long-term goals with your businesses. Because for businesses, just like the way we've said under the risk, it's very important for us to have emergency funds and also short-term and long-term. In case, for example, long-term, we can put maybe, you say, for example, you purchase the land, and then there is something that you need to do as an organization. Maybe we need like an emergency fund for maybe to expand a business or something. What are some of the things you can be able to do as an organization to be able now to meet that short term? That's something that you need. So sometimes it's good to have short term and long term investment goals, so that in case you need something urgent, you can be able to borrow from the short term investments. And if something long term, it's also you can be able now to keep it going forward. And then save now. Oh, that's something that we need also to do. Save now in order for us now to be able to meet our something that has just come, our emergencies. It's important, unpredictable circumstances, risky circumstances. Just like the way you've shared, you say people are running away with your bikes. There's the issue of the credit cards. So you need to save in case of anything that has happened, in case of any losses. It's very easy for you to bounce back as a business so that you can be able to meet what you have targeted. And then plan for long term. Don't only plan for short term. And long term, what does it mean? Taking an investment scheme that can be able to run for a long term. It's very important. And then also pay yourself. A lot of businesses want us to how, and this is how businesses fail. Because most of us, we don't pay ourselves, even as Cbte. In your biashara, then by the end of the season, to make profits. But hizi profits, wacha tufanye nini tujipatie. Make sure even as you budget for your salary, budget for your staff salaries kama uko nao, na kama ni committee mnawalipa pia budget for that, so that by the end of the season hamfanyi ile ya kubahatisha. Unajua by the end of the season, either it's Lynnet, either it's Mike, either it's Jonathan, they're supposed to have this particular, so that it doesn't interfere with our budgeting. Also keep your business separate. Always don't mix your business things and your personal things. Because by the end of the period, you cannot be able now to tell, am I making losses or am I making profits, or what are the challenges? It's good to segregate anything that is doing with business. Make sure you put it aside. So some of the things that you're going to look at is tips for money management. So number one, for the tips, create a budget. It's important for you now to create a budget. Budget is very important. We've seen planning and budgeting are very important in each of the organization. Budget focus the amount of revenue you receive. It's important for you. In case maybe you budgeted, you say, is here, sorry, I need to have this particular income. Now these are my expenses. Now in your profit nataka. In case you don't realize that, are you supposed to go back to the drawing board? And then you analyze some of the expenses you can be able now to cut in order for you now to be able to realize your profits. Also minimize on your spending. Make sure each and every time you are using your budget, unaeka, this is what I had budgeted in actual versus projected versus actuals, so that by the end of the season you don't overspend. Unaangalia, this is my budget. Make sure you be very strict on your budget. Every time that you spend, unaangalia what was on my budget. How far have I done in regards to budget? Then stay on top of deadlines. Avoid missed bill payments. Stay on top of your deadline. And that's why it's very important. And that's why most of the organizations have accountant in place. But if you do not have an accountant, make sure you have somebody that you've delegated to handle your finances in such a way that if you are offering things on credit, they are on top of things. They can be able to tell this payment has already been received, this payment has not been received. The records are well kept. They can be able to say, these are our account receivable, these are our account payable. So account receivable ni wale watu ambao wanatuowe sisi kama organization. Na account payables ni creditors, wenye sisi inafaa tulipe kama organization. Inafaa unaangalia, unajua ni kina nani sisi inafaa tuwalipe na ni kina nani wanafaa watulipe. So that una keep on follow. Isikuwe ni wakati wenye imepita, then unaona wakati umepita na lakini hatuja realize mapato yetu. And then monitoring your spending is very important, even as you budget, because a lot of people muna budget, you come up with very good budgets, but you don't follow those budgets, you don't monitor. Mumeka hapo, even the procedures tumeongelea about keeping internal systems tumeongelea about policies, watu wafanye, tumeongelea about contracts. Make sure each and everything yenye unafanya, be it kama ume contract a consultant, make sure that consultant akona contract and set how much you're supposed to pay. Kama ume contract mtu kwa biashara yako, make sure mko na contract, mumeandikishana. Unasema hii tumeandikishana, utanifanyia hii na hii ndio nitakulipa, so that you can be able to monitor your spending. Alafu do daily or weekly cash reconciliation. It's very important. Kila siku by the end of the day. That's why unaona most of the business wanasema kama banks for example, they are closing at 4. Na unapata watu wa bank wanatoka huko 5, 6. Have you ever asked yourself kwa nini? It's because they are doing reconciliation. Wanatuambia leo tumepata hii. How much have you been able to tumeweza kuuza na ni vitu gani ambavyo tumeweza kulipa? So monitor your spending is very important. Do daily and weekly cash reconciliation so that ikifika mwisho wa mwezi unajua hii ndio nimeipata na hii ndio bank wakitumia statement ama ni M-Pesa statement ama ni till number. Also till number is very important for you to use. Till number, the moment they transfer you money, hakuna vile wata revert back, not unless they send you wakikuuliza if they can revert. And also this is something that immediately a client akilipa, you can be able to see on your end. Either unaweza uka prompt kupatie kwa email na pia kwa your M-Pesa, so that immediately client akilipa unaweza ukapata message inakwambia huyu ameshalipia. So monitoring your expenses is very important. Alafu tunaambiwa pia separate business and personal funds. Separate, it's important to have separate bank accounts, separate even the M-Pesa transaction, because sometimes tumesema you can be able to do it directly. So long as your bank anakupatia, then you have your number, it goes direct to the bank. It's important to separate, because mixing your personal and business fund can result in disorganized records, leading to overspending, missed growth opportunities. Sababu those are some of the things zenye utaweza kupoteza wewe kama mwanabiashara. Because ni vizuri uweke separate, uzitenganishe akaunti yako ya biashara na akaunti yako mwenyewe, so that unaweza kuwa very important for you to track na uweze kufanya reconciliation vizuri na uweze kumonitor your spending. And also pia kitu ingine ni ina cut costs and increase revenue. Kwa sababu by looking at current expenses area amounts, you can scale back and eliminate frills. So frills can eliminate anything that is alarming. So it's very important for you, ukiangalia kwa budget unaweza kuona which cost can I be able to cut na which cost can I be able revenue naweza ku increase aje ndio niweze kufanya nini to meet whatever thing yenye nimetaka. Alafu kitu kingine tumeongelea emergency funds are very important for individual and also for an organization. Kwa sababu tuliona during COVID, a lot of businesses was down within like few months. Vile announced COVID in March, by June or July, most of the organizations either kulikuwa na retrenchment, others were completely laid off, na kuna wengine the business were closed. As we speak, kuna other business that they were never able to bounce back. So it's very important for us to, as an organization, even if how little it is, even if it's 5,000 per month, 10,000, depending with how much you're making per month or per year, make sure you have something for your organization, putting money management tips. So significantly putting something aside for rainy days. In case something happens, what can I be able to do? In case the bank doesn't give you a loan, what can I be able to do? These are kind of emergency things that you need to have. Financial policies and procedure, those are very important things in our organization. Those are things that we need to have in place for us now to do what? To be able to finance our things very, very well. Policies, we need to have basic cash management. Don't accept anything that has not been signed. To a situation where people are signing things that they don't even understand. It's important that make sure you sign. Because there's a situation where you don't sign for things. Then whoever amekupatia, maybe I give you 10,000, Amanda Mandika 15. I will be able to say that actually it was not 15 yet, you've not signed. So it's important for you to sign those things. Even you yourself, maybe the accountant, and like myself, then when something happens, it's very easy for you because there's no documentation to show that. So for accountability, transparency, the effective allocation of resources, it's important for us to keep records, to have financial policies and procedures in place. Those are some of the things that will help us tackle our finances. Credit management policies, tumeongelea inventory policies. Don't wait for your stock to run. That's why sasa ndio unaanza kama ni bits unaanza kutengeneza. Make sure you know your order. Make sure you know at what point nafaa kuagizia bidhaa zangu kama before bado ziishi. Wenye wanafanya hizo accommodation, make sure there is consistent yenye una market. Petty cash management policy. How are we supposed to manage our petty cash? Inakuwa ukipatia mtu ana sign. Once amekuletea budget ya whatever ameenda kununua, anakuletea receipt. Kama ni change, then you cancel that. It's important. Asset management policy. Maybe kuna mtu anatumia asset ya organization. Asset ni machine ya organization yote unatumia. What are the kind of policies mnatumia ku request for those so that isipotee, then organization muweze mshinde vile mnaweza fanya nini, how you can be able to maintain your things. So ni hayo, thank you so much. Tumefika to the end of our session. In case there's anybody who has any question with regards to what we've learned or you need clarity, ama unataka ufafanuzi zaidi wa kitu fulani, unaweza ukaulizia so that tunaweza ku-explain zaidi ya yenye tumeweza ku-explain. So kuna mtu ako na swali, any question that you can ask with regards to this training? Or anything that you need clarity on, ama kuna kitu maybe unataka kuongezea kwa yale ambayo tumeongea, ama kuna kitu maybe una feel ni kitu ningeweza kuongelea but sijaongelea, pia unaweza ukaulizia atuweze. Na maybe to emphasize for the kind of things as organization you need to do also ni ku-emphasize on the issue of now receiving cash. Kwa sababu cash most of the time mtu anaweza kukupatia fake currency. So sometimes naumoza maybe products with yenye iko very costly. So it's good now we embrace the M-Pesa. M-Pesa nowadays wametupatia so many options. Yenye nina from direct from our account, direct to bank, kuna the pochi la biashara, kuna till number, kuna paybill, but paybill is for big businesses. For till number it can be good for the CBTOs. Just wanakutumia inakuwa very easy pia wewe kutransfer kwa bank. Na ni kama hauna bank, make sure you do have a bank account. The issue of signature is very important for transparency also and sustainability. Sababu having 2 or 3 people making a decision is not nice. Lazima kukuwe na watu wanne, those people can authorize pesa, ndio hata ikirudi, you can be able to be accounted for it. Si mtu mmoja kuweza kusign anything that goes out on behalf of the association. So it's important to have people, policies and procedures to guide you on how you're supposed to requisition for money. Tumesema pesa before, kama ni project you need to write something. Kile yenye unaandika you need to write in your project number, date, when is the training supposed to do, how much you need, so that you don't, inakuwa very clear even when a investor akikuja ama any donor akikuja anaona hi this is how, anaona the records are very well maintained. Si vile tu yenye ukitoka unasema oh tomorrow naenda Nairobi nipatie 50,000. No, that's not important. Make sure you come up with a clear what we call budget. You write something, then after that it's also good to write a report. Like for this training, it's good when you go there you write a report on what you've been trained on, so that even the person in the office, they can be able to get to learn more on what is happening. Also for transparency, in case somebody anakuja even to audit and on actually this training was conducted on this day and these are deliverables and this is how much in your budget, in your amount alitumia, in your pesa alirudisha. So having internal control system in place pia tumeona ni important for us to effectively manage our finances. So kama kuna question unaweza ukatuma on our chat session, ama you can also unmute yourself na useme something, ama you can also do a comment, ama you say something and you feel I've not tackled, uniambie so that we can be able to explain further. So any question? Yes, Jonathan, I can see you raised your hand.
Yeah, there's a question I raised earlier in the inbox. I don't know if you tackled it because I was not around by then. went for the break.
Okay, maybe you can repeat the question. I didn't see the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. There's also one problem that we normally have also when doing a budget to maybe a donor, maybe writing a budget to a donor. So most of the time, we have a problem with that. So maybe we'll do maybe clarify some of the tips or procedures that we need to follow. That or we should always never omit when coming up with a budget to our donors.
Okay, so for the budget, like the way we said, you need to have like a clear objective of what the project is all about. Once you have that clear objective, then you need to plan. So planning, you need to understand out of those clear objectives, what are we supposed to do? Like, for example, maybe there's something that as an organization, maybe you want trainings for this particular years or for this particular, maybe training on, let's say, whatever we are doing, effective management training, and want this to be carried with this particular. So what are the objectives of that training? What are the plans? What are plans? Do you want it to be carried in a hotel? Or where do you want it to be carried? Do you want it to employ like a consultant? So those are some of the things that you need planning. Then once you plan, you need now to know, out of plan, what do I need to go to the budget? So the budget area, maybe you need the cost for the consultant. Maybe you need the cost for training. Maybe you want to invite your members to come. Do you need to pay for accommodation, transport and accommodation? Those are some of the things. And also for your time, also as an organization, do you have to put something as an organization, maybe for administrative fees, or even the, for the office fees, for printing and stationery. So those are some of the things that once you know what the project is all about, or the objectives of the project. So it becomes so easy for you to plan a budget, because we've already taken about the process of the budgeting earlier on. So that is something that is important for you to be able now to understand in terms of now what is the project all about, what are the deliverables, do you need training for how many days? So when you know the training for how many days, it becomes so easy for you to come up with a budget for that particular donor. So that's it. I think I've answered your question.
Yes, thank
Jonathan?
you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then there is, okay. The Sheila is saying pricing of primary resources keep changing due to our economic condition. How do you manage the pricing offered clients while maintaining quality and not to go over your budget? So for the pricing, I think that's what we have already discussed. We need to have a policy in place. And then also we need to, depending with how now, you need to access the market rates, because you cannot go beyond what the other people are offering. So what you need to do is you check, like for example, if you're offering the same kind of product, what are others offering at that particular time? And if it's the cost of inflation, what are you be able to do? If inflation is 7%, are you also going to adjust based on that inflation rate? Or are you going to do based on the market price and also based on what others are offering with the similar products and services that you are doing? So it's all about now checking and see what you can be able to work for the organization and what other people are also offering within that same products and services, and also what your policy says in terms of pricing strategy and also pricing for a product. So I think she'll have answered your question. Anyone else who has further questions with regards to today's training? Okay. I can see there's another question. Oh, yeah. Shall I say thank you? So yes, thank you. So also in terms of now budget, it's good also to gather financial data. So financial data in terms of expenses that you're expecting for the project, in terms of expenses, and also the grant management. Also, it's good for you to categorize your expenses so that you can be able to meet your operational in terms of now the project and program related and also administrative fee. Those are some of the things that you can need to improve on you need to include on your project budgets. Also balance income versus expenditure. So it's important for you also to consider that by the time you're giving also the budget to the donor, make sure you've captured everything with regards to your organization and you see what can be able now to suit within the organization. And remember, we talked about that, Jonathan, this is just, I'm just expanding on whatever you asked during now the risk mitigation and also how can you be able now to risk exploitation. We say in terms of now budgets for the projects, it's good even while you're budgeting, also put in mind the nature of business of your organization, because most of the organizations are non-profit making organization that solemnly relies on this kind of trainings, the donors now for them to be able to run the organization. So it's important to put in mind while you're doing your budget, what are some of the things, especially on the expenses side, that can I be able to improve? So you make sure all the trainings that are being done within the organization are in line with whatever proposal that you've given for the organization, and it's something now the project can be able to offer. And that's why it's important when you are targeting a project, you look at whatever need within the organization that immediately you target a donor, it can be able now to surface that. The donor can be able to cater for that, and also the organization can be able to benefit for that, and not also to put organization into financial constraint. So that's it. In case there's any further question or comments before we wrap up the session, because I can see it's already 12:08. So before we close the session, any other question or comment? So if there's no any other further question, I'd like to say thank you so much for listening and also attending. And I believe the session has been very educative and also very useful. And this is something that you can take it with you. Even for those who are not here within the organization, it's something that you can be able to educate them in terms of now effective financial management. Don't forget what we've learned in terms of the policies, what we're supposed to do as an organization to manage our finances effectively, the kind of risk and strategies that you're supposed to put in place so that organization cannot be able now to make losses or to go at a loss. So it's important for us to have that in mind and also educate others. Thank you so much about the presentation. Just like Edwin has already been communicating, it will be shared on our YouTube page so that you can be able to, especially for those who are not there. Sheila say thank you so much. Jonathan, thank you so much for that wonderful session. I've learned a lot. God bless you, my sister. So thank you so much. Gladness Mwaliko, I think there is a club. Thank you. Yes, we'll share your, oh, yes, I'll share my contact. Sorry. Livingston, I can see you. Yes.
Okay, asante sana madam. Mlilo leo iko mbele.
Leo uko mbele. Sasa umeiva kifinance.
Kabisa kabisa. Jinsi ilikuwa nangojea sana hii.
Okay, sawa sawa. So najua sasa umeelewa.
Sana. Hii imekuwa
Okay, thank you. Joey Namenge say thank you so much, well articulated. Thank you, Joey. And for Jonathan, yes, I'll share my contact details if you don't mind. So that's what I'll share. Maybe I can put it on a chat session. Yes. So that, oops, sorry, admin at Ecotourism